Hi everyone! Today I'm going to tell you about the most disappointing book I have ever read. And did I paint my nails especially to match this video? Yes I did. Because aesthetics. I read this book about 1 year ago, but I still wanted to talk about it because I would like to discuss the representation of this book because I don't think the representation is a really good one. And before I'm gonna go further into the book, I just want to say that everything I say in this video is merely my own opinion, and if you actually like this book and if it's one of your favorite books, then that's okay. I'm just gonna talk about my own opinion, and my opinion just happens to be not that positive. But once again, if you like the book, that's really okay, and I am actually glad that you did like it. So this book is being sold as a feministic retelling of The Little Mermaid, which sounded really awesome, and I will read for you the summary inside the book. Deep beneath the cold, stormy sea, Gaia is a mermaid who dreams of freedom from her controlling father. On her first swim to the surface, she is drawn towards a human boy. Gaia longs to join his carefree world, but how much will she have to sacrifice? What will it take for the Little Mermaid to find her voice? Hans Christian Andersen's world-famous fairy tale is reimagined through a searing feminist lens by one of our most talented writers. This is a book with the darkest of undercurrents, full of rage and rallying cries, storytelling at its most spellbinding. That sounded so awesome when I picked up this book, and I really wanted it to be a feministic read, but unfortunately it seems like it is the opposite of a feministic book. And as you can see, I have made many notes and marked many pages of parts that really bothered me. In itself, the story is indeed a retelling of The Little Mermaid, which is one of my favorite books. However, not one of the characters in this book really stands for feminism. At least not in my opinion. After having read all the injustice and cruelty in the beginning of the book, I was hoping that the main character, Gaia, would actually go through some kind of change and stand up for herself and her people, but at the end that didn't really happen. Not only are the men in this book incredibly cruel, narcissistic and sexistic, the women as well do not have the nicest characters. From now on, I'm going to give some spoilers about the book, so if you don't want to hear them, I suggest you stop watching this video. However, I do not recommend you to actually read the book, and that is also why I'm making this video, especially for children. I think that reading this book is not the best way to be introduced to feminism, because it is not a correct representation of feminism, and I'm just afraid they will get the wrong view on what feminism actually is, because feminism is about equality. It is that men and women are equal and that they deserve the same respect, and that no one is superior to the other. Injustice is not something that should be solved with vengeance. However, this book seems to think otherwise. On page 2, we are already introduced to the Rusalkas, who sing men to death for revenge for all that has been inflicted upon them. And at the end of this book, the main character stabs herself to death and ends the book with this sentence: "I will be Rusalka. I will have my vengeance." So this book seems to be all about vengeance and not really about change. She has not changed herself, she has not tried to change the mindset of her people. So what exactly is the feministic part and movement in this story? Because I am not sure. Moreover, she let other girls be harassed without even trying to do something about it. On page 172 it says, "I can see the tip of his tongue darting into Link's ear, her barely perceptible shudder. I should go over there and help, like I wish someone had intervened when Zill put his hands on me. But is it my place to do so? But maybe this type of behavior is simply what women must withstand in order to exist in the world." What? And then in the end she just walks away and does nothing. What is that mindset? And on page 3 we already read about the differences between the rich and the poor and the inequality when her grandmother is actually sewing pearls into her fishtail, which sounds pretty painful. The pearls are large, heavy, and I must wear 6 of them for fear the other mer people will somehow forget that I am royalty and therefore they're superior in all ways. And on page 13, "They are lucky that we allow them to remain here at all. Unnatural creatures." And then once again on page 61 it says, "The rightful mer people, that is, those allowed the privilege of life within the palace grounds." So inequality is clearly a subject of this book. But wait for it. There is not only a clear difference between rich and poor in this book, women are also seen as objects, and they merely exist for the pleasure of men. Grandmother's family was of high birth and well respected, but my mother was their ticket to the throne. When my grandmother calls me special, she means beautiful. That is the only way a woman can be special in the kingdom, and I am beautiful. And on page 81, "You are just girls. Your looks are the only thing that distinguishes you from one another, and I want the best." And even the Sea Witch has these non-feministic phrases that I really hate. "Men don't like women who talk too much, do they? Better to be silent." Because isn't it like that? But her own father, the Sea King, is actually worst of all. I quote, "All I've ever asked from you is that you look pretty," my father says, "and you smile when asked to. Is that so hard? Is it? Why must you all be so useless?" And this sentence really made me gag. If Mergen were not my daughter, perhaps I would have chosen her for myself. He would marry his own daughter? He even encourages his other daughter to eat nothing, because we don't want any suitors put off or preferring another sister again, do we? Next to that, he married his wife when she was 16 and he was 69. He could have been her grandfather. And then on page 75, he lets the same thing happen to his own daughter, because she says, or well, actually she thinks, "I look so young next to him, as if posing for a portrait with my grandfather." From here on, this guy starts verbally and sexually harassing her, and she just lets it happen. And also her sisters don't do anything about it because she gets to marry Zill and she needn't be so disrespectful to him. And even one of her own sisters tries to send her to the Sea Witch because she simply wants to get rid of her and she just wants this creepy guy for herself. And they're all jealous with the main character, and I mean, that is just mean. And I can go on and on forever about this book, but I just wanted to express my feelings, and I'm just so disappointed because I love this cover and it's maybe even one of my favorite covers ever because it is so pretty. And I love these reflecting parts of the book, and also on the back it has these super pretty objects and fish, and I just love it so much. And even the real cover is so pretty. If you take off the dust jacket, it's like all these fish scales and it's just beautiful. But I am not gonna keep this book on my shelf merely because I love the cover, because I don't want to promote this book to anyone, to be honest. With all due respect to the writer, I just think that the book has a wrong representation, and I think that if it would have been sold in a different way as a non-feministic read or just a dark retelling without a happy ending, then my opinion would have been less negative. And once again, if you really like this book, if it's one of your favorites, then I am really happy for you, and I'm glad that you liked it, but I just don't think that this is what feminism is. And I feel like with books like these that people get the wrong idea of feminism, which I think is really troubling. And if they simply would have represented this book as a cruel retelling without a happy ending, then my hostility towards this book would have been less so. Well, this was a pretty long and negative review, I think, but I am really curious to hear if you have ever read a book which you regret reading. And I am also curious whether you have any good actual feministic book recommendations for me. So if you have any of those, please leave them down below in the comments. And thank you so much for watching, and I wish you a wonderful day with a lot of sunshine and books. Mata ne!